You've probably heard the pitch, and I have to admit it sounds brilliant. A car that you fill up in 5 minutes drives hundreds of miles and emits nothing but pure, clean water from its tailpipe. It seems like the perfect solution, the magic bullet we've all been waiting for, and all without changing our habits. This is the story often sold to us about hydrogen fuel cell vehicles. They're presented as the ultimate clean machines, combining gasoline-like convenience with electric-like environmental credentials. A compelling narrative. Have our cake and eat it too, driving guilt-free. But whenever something sounds that simple and perfect, my curiosity kicks in. Is it really that straightforward? So, what exactly is a hydrogen car? At its core, it's an electric car. That might sound confusing, but it's the fundamental truth. It doesn't burn hydrogen in an engine like a petrol car burns petrol. Instead, it uses a clever piece of kit called a fuel cell stack. Think of this fuel cell as a mini power plant on wheels. You feed it hydrogen gas from a high-pressure tank stored in the car, and it takes in oxygen from the air around you. Inside the fuel cell, a chemical reaction occurs that strips electrons from the hydrogen atoms. These freed electrons are what create an electric current. This electricity is then used to power an electric motor, which is what turns the wheels and makes the car move. Any excess electricity generated can be stored in a small battery, similar to the one in a hybrid car, to provide a boost during acceleration. The only byproduct of this onboard chemical reaction is water. The process is quiet, smooth, and feels just like driving any other electric vehicle. The magic happens without any combustion fire or explosions. It's a purely electrochemical process. The hydrogen atoms, now positively charged ions after losing their electrons, pass through a special membrane inside the fuel cell. On the other side, they meet up with the oxygen from the air and reunite with their old electron friends that have just finished their trip around the electrical circuit. When hydrogen, oxygen, and electrons combine, they form water molecules. This elegant process is the heart of the fuel cell electric vehicle, and the source of its zero emissions promise at the point of use. This distinction is crucial because it separates hydrogen cars from the failed hydrogen combustion experiments of the past. Those tried to burn hydrogen in a modified internal combustion engine, which was inefficient and produced nasty nitrogen oxide emissions. The modern fuel cell approach is far more sophisticated and cleaner. When we talk about clean energy, efficiency is king. Wasting energy is like throwing money and environmental progress out the window. This is where hydrogen cars face their biggest and most fundamental challenge when compared to their main rival, battery electric vehicles. Let's follow the energy journey for both. For a BEV, electricity is generated at a power plant transmitted through the grid and stored directly in the car's battery. There are energy losses at each step, but overall, about 70 to 80% of the original energy from the grid makes it to the wheels. This is known as grid-to-wheel efficiency. Now let's trace the path for a hydrogen car. The journey starts in the same place, with electricity. To make the cleanest form of hydrogen, known as green hydrogen, you use a process called electrolysis. This uses that electricity to split water into hydrogen and oxygen. Right away, you lose about 25 to 30% of the energy in this conversion. Each of these steps consumes more energy. Finally, inside the car, the fuel cell converts the hydrogen back into electricity to power the motor, a process which itself is only about 60% efficient. When you add up all those losses, the grid-to-wheel efficiency of a typical hydrogen fuel cell car is only around 25 to 35%. This means that for every 100 kilowatt-hours of electricity you generate from a wind turbine, a BEV can use about 75 of them to drive, while a hydrogen car can only use about 30. You would need more than twice the amount of renewable energy to power a fleet of hydrogen cars compared to an identical fleet of BEVs covering the same distance. In a world where we are racing to build as much renewable capacity as possible, this level of inefficiency is a staggering handicap. This isn't just a theoretical problem, it has real-world consequences for running costs. Because you need so much more primary energy to move a hydrogen car 1 mile, the fuel itself is bound to be more expensive. Imagine you had 2 buckets, one with a small hole and one with a massive hole. If you had to fill both, from the same tap to water your garden, which one would you choose? The BEV is the bucket, with the small hole. The hydrogen car is the bucket, with the massive hole. While it can still get the job done, it requires far more water, or, in this case, precious green energy, to do so. The claim that hydrogen cars are zero emission is only true at the tailpipe. The real environmental impact depends entirely on how the hydrogen fuel is produced, and this is often conveniently glossed over. The vast majority of hydrogen produced globally today, around 95%, is what's known as gray hydrogen. It's made by steam methane reforming using natural gas as the feedstock. The process is energy intensive, and it releases large amounts of CO2 directly into the atmosphere. Powering a car with gray hydrogen can yield a carbon footprint worse than a modern petrol car. Then there's blue hydrogen, promoted as a cleaner stepping stone. It's made the same way as gray hydrogen, but the CO2 emissions are supposedly captured and stored underground. That process is called carbon capture and storage, CCS. In practice, capture is never 100% effective. Significant methane leaks, a potent greenhouse gas, can occur during natural gas extraction and transport. These are called fugitive emissions. Recent studies suggest that accounting for these leaks makes blue hydrogen's total greenhouse impact substantial, sometimes even higher, than simply burning the natural gas directly. The ultimate goal: green hydrogen, the only truly zero-emission version. Produced through electrolysis using renewable electricity from wind, using renewable electricity from solar, to split water into hydrogen and oxygen, completely clean, no carbon emissions. The problem? As of 2025, green hydrogen is incredibly expensive, and is only a tiny fraction of global hydrogen production. Electricity: we need to decarbonize our grids. Electricity: we need to heat our homes. Electricity: we need to charge the growing fleet of BEVs. So we're left with a difficult choice. Power cars with dirty gray hydrogen and worsen emissions, rely on questionable, still polluting blue hydrogen, or divert scarce renewable electricity to make green hydrogen for cars. Inefficient. This is the emissions shell game. The clean promise of the car depends entirely on a clean fuel source that is currently rare, expensive, and in high demand for critical industrial sectors that are hard to electrify. Steel, cement manufacturing. This isn't about dismissing hydrogen entirely, nor is it about accepting it without question. It's about peeling back the layers of the myth to get to the hard facts. We'll explore the science, the economics, and the practical realities they don't always tell you. One of the most frequently cited advantages is the refueling experience. Proponents will tell you you can fill a hydrogen tank in about 5 minutes, similar to filling petrol or diesel. This is contrasted with longer BEV charging times. On paper that's true, and for long-distance drivers, it's compelling. A typical FCEV, Toyota Mirai Hyundai Nexo range, 300 to 400 miles, but a fast fill is useless if you can't find a station. It's the chicken and egg problem for hydrogen infrastructure. As of late 2025, the public network is minuscule, almost non-existent in most places. UK, count stations on 2 hands. Elsewhere, hydrogen cars aren't practical. Building the network is astronomically expensive. Each station costs upwards of $2 million, far more than DC fast chargers. Hydrogen is hard to handle, stored at extremely high pressures or at cryogenic temperatures. Both require specialized, expensive, energy-intensive equipment. That weakens the business case, so few cars to use them. Nobody will buy the cars until stations exist. This undermines the fast refuel pitch for average consumers. A BEV driver might spend 30 minutes on a long trip, but has access to thousands of charging locations growing daily. Over 80% of BEV charging happens at home, or work drivers start the day with a full tank. Hydrogen owners must travel to a handful of specific, often unreliable public stations. Let's address the safety question first. Whenever hydrogen is discussed, images of the Hindenburg disaster often spring to mind. It's true that hydrogen is a highly flammable gas with a wide explosive range in air. However, it's important to put this risk into perspective. Petrol is also an extremely flammable liquid, yet we have handled it relatively safely for over a century. Modern hydrogen cars are engineered with incredible safety features. The hydrogen is stored in exceptionally strong carbon fiber tanks that are subjected to rigorous testing, shot at with firearms during tests set on fire in controlled burn tests to ensure they don't rupture in a crash. In some ways, hydrogen can be safer than petrol in an accident. Because it is the lightest element in the universe, if a leak does occur, the gas dissipates upwards into the atmosphere almost instantly. Petrol, being a liquid, pools on the ground, creating a lingering fire hazard. While the high pressure of the tanks presents a risk, the safety standards and engineering behind them are robust. The far bigger and more immediate obstacle for hydrogen cars is cost. Cost to buy, cost to run. The fuel cell stacks are complex to manufacture. They rely on expensive materials like platinum as a catalyst. Despite reductions, fuel cells remain a very costly component. Models like the Toyota Mirai carry a premium price tag, often higher than comparable BEVs, even after subsidies. Manufacturing costs need to fall dramatically for mainstream adoption. Beyond purchase price, the fuel cost is a major deterrent. Hydrogen at the pump is priced per kilogram. Filling a tank can be significantly more expensive than charging a BEV for the same miles. In many places, hydrogen can cost more per mile than petrol. That's due to expensive production, especially green hydrogen, and costly distribution infrastructure. Until cars and fuel become economically competitive, hydrogen will remain niche. Early adopters, fleet operators with specific needs. So, after examining the facts, are hydrogen cars a dead end? Not necessarily, but their role in the future of transport looks very different from the one often advertised. For the everyday passenger car, the battle is largely over. The battery electric vehicle has won. The superior efficiency, rapidly expanding and cheaper charging infrastructure, the ability to conveniently charge at home, make BEVs the more practical, affordable, and energy-conscious choice for the vast majority of drivers. Fundamental physics of energy loss make it hard for hydrogen to catch up for this use case. But hydrogen isn't without a future. It starts to make sense where battery limitations become a serious problem. Long-haul trucking, city buses, shipping, aviation. These vehicles need immense energy and can't afford long downtime or massive battery weight. For fleets returning to a central depot, in heavy-duty and industrial contexts, hydrogen's lower efficiency is less critical. Energy density range, fast refueling. These sectors can better absorb high initial infrastructure costs. The most likely future is complementary. Cars, light commercial vans powered by batteries. While green hydrogen fuels trucks, ships, planes, heavy industry. It's about the right tool for the right job. Think critically. Look beyond the headlines. Hydrogen cars aren't a one-size-fits-all magic solution. They're part of a larger, complex energy puzzle. Efficiency, cost, infrastructure. The real promise of hydrogen is not on our driveways but on our highways, oceans, skies. The real promise of hydrogen lies not on our driveways but on our highways, our oceans, and in our skies. The goal here is to arm you with information, not to push an agenda. Transitioning away from fossil fuels is one of the biggest challenges of our time, and there will likely be multiple solutions working together. Your role, consumer, investor, or curious citizen, is to understand the pros and cons.